Yavapai Broadcasting and the City of Cottonwood proudly present Inside Cottonwood, an inside look at the decisions and issues of the City of Cottonwood. Brought to you by Arizona Smile Designers.
Hello, welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I'm Mayor Diane Joens, your host. We have with us today our new Mingus Union High School superintendent. Just started a few days ago, I think. And his name is Paul Tighe. And do you want to tell us, how do you spell Tighe?
Well, it's spelled T-I-G-H-E, so it gets mispronounced pretty frequently, but I think it's that extra E on the end must have
just kind of confuses. So there's a lot of letters in there that you don't pronounce.
Right,
So.
It sounds just like necktie. So
like a necktie. That's how I remember it. So welcome to our community.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, and we've met each other at a few different events already, and you've kind of shared your story with me and some others about your background, and I just thought it would be interesting to get you on the show and kind of introduce you to the community, let them find out a little bit about you and talk about your background and maybe a little bit of your vision. So where did you come from?
Sure. Well, certainly a pleasure to be here today. I appreciate the invite, and this looks like a great show, and I'm very excited to be here in Cottonwood. Back in the late 90s, when I was in Vermont, I grew up in Vermont, I came out here a few times with my folks who were looking for a place to retire, and they searched the area, and so we had kind of a plan. It wasn't just them, it was a family move kind of thing, and they loved Cottonwood, I loved Cottonwood, and my plan back then 15 years ago was to come to Cottonwood, but the job brought me to Phoenix area, so I've been down the valley since 2001.
And your parents live in Cottonwood, correct?
Yeah, so they built a retirement house on 12th Street. They love it here. They don't even like to vacation anymore because they said they're on vacation every day. So,
I feel the same way myself.
Yeah, so it's a great community, and I'm just really excited to finally be part of it.
So you've been trying all these 15 years, and you taught in schools down in Phoenix. So you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I was a teacher when I was in Vermont. Most of my teaching years were as a high school math teacher. And I was a principal in Vermont, and then came as a principal to Arizona in the Dysart district, so down in Surprise. And I was there during a lot of rapid growth, incredible growth. The district doubled several times while I was there. And the last 5 years, I've been assistant superintendent in the Littleton district, which is mostly in Avondale. We have a couple schools in Phoenix, but most of it's in Avondale. And I had great experiences down there, but this is really where I wanted to be. And
you were telling me about how fast some of those schools grew and how many students you had was remarkable.
Yeah, it was kind of incredible. When I first came to Arizona, my school, as a principal, my school was the only school that Dysart had in the city of Surprise. Well, now, City of Surprise has proliferated.
It's
the district
very large.
has grown. They had one high school and 5 schools, and now there are 24 schools, 4 of which are high schools. They went from 4,000 students to 25, I think pushing 26,000 students.
Isn't that just amazing?
Yeah, couldn't build schools fast enough. I had the opportunity to open a new school, and they broke ground in January. We moved into the school the weekend before the kids came. And there were 2 buildings, and only one of them we could occupy. So we literally had construction through November of the first school year. It was literally, you couldn't build schools fast enough back then.
Isn't that amazing that the growth that area experienced? Well, all of Arizona really was experiencing 5%. I know our census here in this part of Yavapai County, or most of Yavapai County from the 2000 census to the, let's see, no, it was the 1990 to 2000, it grew 50% was our growth rate.
Yeah, that's just incredible, beyond what's reasonably managed or manageable. Same thing happened in Littleton. Went from a little farming community to suddenly the fields were growing houses instead of crops, and rapid growth, and smaller scale, but the rate of growth was just as impressive, if you want to use
Absolutely.
that word.
And then you also have a daughter who's going to college in Northern Arizona.
My daughter just completed her first year at NAU, and so this will get me closer to her. You know, an hour instead of 2. And,
right.
You know, it's just another perk to being up here. And, you know, very proud of her, my one and only. I like to tell her, you know, when I was a principal, poor thing, she had me as her principal for 10 years.
Oh,
so
boy.
She didn't know any different, though, you know, preschool through 8th grade.
That's how life is, huh? Yeah. Dad's there.
So you know, she didn't know what life was like without that.
Right,
so
and then, I mean, there's a little bit of pressure on a child of a principal or a bus driver or anybody.
Yeah.
If your kid's there, you expect them to be perfect because they have to set an example for everyone else.
Yeah, and she lived up to that. You know, fortunately, I never had any issues.
That's
with her.
great.
She was really good. But you know, it's very exciting to be closer to her as well. And
great.
She's even taking summer classes right now as we speak. So she's
okay. So you're kind of you've got your email address now, and you're officially at work, or what's your official date? Is that July?
I start July 1st.
Okay.
However, I'm for practically speaking, I'm there. In fact, last week I brought up like 3 boxes of just stuff from my office, and I didn't get to unpack them till yesterday. So now I really feel like I'm moved in. There's personal items on the walls, and it looks like I'm in. I'm there, you know, about 4 days a week now. So it's pretty much that I'm there, and you know, work the transition with Mr. Foist, and you know, he's happily retired back on his ranch in Kansas, and we stay in touch. Though that's
great. You'll be able to contact him if you have a question, or
yeah, he's been great, just a phone call away. And
he did a lot of great things for our school. You know, he really. Like being a highly performing school, you can see the banner, you know, he really promoted the school and tried to make sure the community understood what a good school it is, and a school of which we can be very proud.
And I agree. I mean, I've seen the transformation, having, you know, frequently visited Cottonwood and read the local papers over the years, and you know, there's so many great things happening there that the community can be proud of.
Absolutely.
The hard thing is that they don't know about it. They can't be proud of something they're not aware of. And so, you know, this is a trend in education, public education in general, is we have to sell ourselves now. It's the reality. And there's more school choice, and you know, it helps with getting local support when they know their dollars are being well spent, and you know, good things are happening. And so there are great things happening. There's great staff, and it makes my job easier because it's easy to promote the good stuff that's already happening and, you know, add to it. Absolutely.
And the city's been proud of our relationship with the school, and we have a sign together out near Corey's, you know, that talks about our partnership and our support of. I always say that Cottonwood is a community that loves its children. You know, we support our kids. We really, it's important.
Yeah, I've seen, you know, evidence of that great partnership, and hope to, you know, strengthen it and, you know, further expand it. I think, you know, we're all in this together, and, you know, education and, you know, even the business community and the municipality, we're all partners, and we all need to be working together to make it a desirable place that brings in good employers, and that, you know, we're producing good citizens as well as, you know, well-educated students that our future depends on it.
Absolutely. We want our kids to be educated, and even though I don't have children, I always have been supportive, even when I wasn't on the council, of any bonds or needs that I saw in the community, because, you know, the kids, I mean, the old cliche, they are our future. And if we want a strong America, like we've always been strong, we've got to educate our children.
Absolutely.
So it's time for a break right now. We'll be back in just a minute to talk about your vision for Mingus. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. We have Paul Tighe, our brand new Mingus Union High School superintendent. We're meeting him today and introducing him to the community. So let's talk a little bit more. We were just talking on the break about highly performing and exactly what that means and kind of your vision. What's the next step?
Sure. Well, you know, highly performing was a label given by the Department of Education. It was in statute. Now it's changed. The transition has gone from performance levels to letter grades. I believe the legislature's thinking was that that's more easily understood by the general population. So the district earned a B last year, and it was close to an A. And so our goal is, you know, to be an A district, which is not easy. But it's
what does that all entail to get up to an A? It's hard work, it sounds like.
It certainly is. There's a point system. You get some points for things like graduation rates, but it's primarily based on the growth of students. Now, the difficulty is it's based on a single metric, which is the Ames assessment. And, you know, education is more than just a single test.
Yes,
but that's how we're labeled, and that's the system we have to work in.
Now, is Arizona, didn't the governor sign a bill to get rid of Ames, or did I misunderstand that?
It's true. Ames is going away, but it's not going away because we're not going to have a state assessment. It's going to be replaced by what's called the PARC.
Okay.
And we're in a transition to Common Core state standards, which many of the states, I think maybe 42 states, have signed on. Arizona was part of it, one of the leading states in leading the change, which is good for Arizona. And it's an attempt to standardize it so that the same curriculum is used in, you know, one state as another. It allows for you know, common textbooks across states instead of having, you know, publishers trying to create texts and resources unique to a state. So larger states tend to dictate that, like, you know, California is a very large state, so California's and Texas standards had a great influence on textbooks. So you know, I think it's a good movement, but that movement changes the assessment. So instead of just having Arizona's instrument to measure standards, which is what Ames stands for, the acronym, it's PARC, and it's going to be much more rigorous, and it's based on these new Common Core standards. So we've, you know, at Mingus have already worked hard. There's already been an alignment of the curriculum to teach to those standards, and it's a transition, and it, you know, involves kids, you know, coming right up through from kindergarten. And, you know, it's going to be something we'll be working on for several years to come. But that's where Ames is going away, is to be replaced by the PARC. And it gets a little complicated for high school and graduation requirements for passing Ames. So there's some statutory changes that were needed for that transition.
So and you're trying to teach all of the core curriculum, the core standards, and yet you still have to try to find a little time in the schedule for extracurricular activities, sports, arts. You have a wonderful theater, and you still have the FFA, the farmer, you know, because we still have a pretty strong farm background in the Verde Valley. So there's just, you have a lot of balls in the air sometimes trying to accomplish all of these things. And so I think that it sounds like a superintendent's work is definitely cut out for him.
Absolutely.
Or her.
Hence the gray hair. You know?
Yes.
You know, but really, you know, what is a comprehensive education? And that's really what we want to provide, is a comprehensive education for our kids. And it's not just about, you know, how much they can do or demonstrate on a test in reading, language arts, and math, because that's what's measured by Ames, and that's what will be measured by PARC. It's, you know, certainly much more comprehensive than that. And, you know, fine arts is, I think, a source of great pride for Mingus, and, you know, will continue to be something we focus on. Even though it's not tested, it doesn't contribute to that A label we will have. It
still makes you a well-rounded school and provides the best education.
Absolutely, and athletics as well, you know, another source of pride, and certainly those kind of things are sometimes the hook for some kids. That's what keeps them in school, keeps them engaged, and you know, helps them be successful in life.
You have students that come from all over the Verde Valley, as I understand it, that drive from different communities and want to attend Mingus for whatever reason. They like the offering and what's there, and maybe the size of the school offers them a little bit more opportunity.
I think, you know, it's a great reflection on the reputation that Mingus has, and you know, it is a desirable school, and the statutes allow for some flexibility with that. Through open enrollment, we're able to pull students. There's, you know, some great school choice. Arizona does offer that, and so we're fortunate to attract students from around the area, even if it's not necessarily their primary designated high school. And so we have students who come from Beaver Creek. We have students, you know, Clarkdale-Jerome is a ascending school district, and certainly the Cottonwood-Oak Creek district. But we have students who come down from Sedona. We have a great representation. We're hoping to expand our foreign exchange student program too, to bring in students from other countries who would be on a tuition basis, but they would certainly add to the diversity of the school and bring a lot of culture that we can't necessarily get locally.
That sounds like a great idea. Is that something that we've done much of in the past, or is that kind of a goal of yours?
Well, it's one of the goals that I have. It's we do or have had some exchange students,
right?
But, you know, single
one
digits,
at a time, right?
And you know, we hope to expand that, and I know the board is very interested in expanding that as well. So
yeah, because there's a lot of people in different countries who are wealthy enough to send their children to American schools, so there are probably some opportunities there.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, just a great opportunity to, you know.
I know, and schools have really, I mean, with the voucher system and all of that, you know, there's a lot of competition for the students now, and so schools have had to really figure out how to get that draw to get our student population, you know, steady, built up, and expanding if needed, because, you know, it's all about, you get so much per pupil. So if you're losing a lot of kids, you know, do you think that competition has been a good thing?
Well, I think it is good from a consumer perspective. It's good that, you know, parents have some flexibility and choices. I think it's challenging for the educators who, you know, teachers get into teaching to teach kids, and, you know, it has to operate a little bit more like a business, and, you know, it takes resources. So, you know, schools have to work harder to market themselves, and that's, you know, relatively new. You know, years ago that was unheard of. It's, you know, the you know, need wasn't there. You know, schools were just there, and there wasn't a choice, and that's where you go. But you know, now there's much greater choices, which, you know, with everything there's good and there's, you know, challenges. And so some of the challenges is, you know, taking resources that really should be going to the classroom to help market a school or a district.
Well, we're going to take a minute for another little break here, and we'll come back and we'll talk about some of your visions, and then we were talking about shared services and how what your plans are to continue on with something that's been going on for quite some time. So we'll be back in just a minute to talk with Paul.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm Mayor Diane Joens, your host, talking to Paul Tighe, the new Mingus Union High School superintendent. We're just talking a little bit about a meeting tonight and what's going to be discussed. There's a study session at 6, you were saying, and at 6:30 there's a regular meeting?
That's correct. So the board will be studying an energy management contract that should be helping save us money on utilities. So that's a study session at 6. The regular meeting starts at 6:30. There is an important item. The board will be considering whether or not to call for a renewal to the override. So they'll call for an election. And the override is very critical to the school. And it would be a continuation, so it's not a new tax, but it would be to continue the same funding level. Well, we still have had decreases. The legislature's cut the funding over the last 5 years. It's been
and the 1%
difficult.
sales tax just went away.
Yes.
So that was something we wanted to talk about today also. So the override is it's something that has been kind of ongoing. The citizens of the area, of the school district, the voters have voted it in for probably quite a few years now. And let's just say that you didn't have the override. What kind of impact would that be on the school?
A loss of the override would, quite frankly, be devastating. It would require us to cut a significant percentage of our budget, which means cutting programs. And that's not something we want to have happen by any means. So it's going to be really critical, especially, I think this is probably the most critical override, for Mingus and certainly for any school district that's up for renewal of an override right now, because of the cuts we've already suffered. It's, it's really critical. And
absolutely. And how will the loss of the 1% sales tax, how do you think that's going to impact schools? Because I think a lot of that money went to keep schools afloat in the past 3 years.
The nice thing is that Proposition 100 passed overwhelmingly, so the public does support education.
More than 60%, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was not close, and so it was a real good message to the legislature that people are willing to pay for education, and they understand the value and the economic impact that having a good educational system brings to the state. So it was sold on the backs of education primarily. We did not reap a lot of those funds. There's a state surplus which they're hoping to ease the fiscal cliff, they call it, with the loss of revenue now that the sales tax is gone. And it was sold as a temporary tax, and I understand the politics behind that.
Right.
But it just means the legislature, they were in session. They have a special session downtown, and they're really struggling to come up with the budget. And I think they're working on it as we speak. But that's one of the challenges, the loss of revenue. And the difficulty is the funding for a lot of the state revenue is based on sales tax, and that's a very volatile funding source, whereas other states use property tax more heavily. It's more stable. Sales tax, when the economy's great, is wonderful and there's extra money, and then when the economy tanks, as we've seen in recent years, there's a funding deficit, and so it becomes
and the state has
volatile.
A structural deficit. I mean, it's going to be hard unless we look at revenues, to be able to pay the bills for education or anything else that the state does. I mean, have you driven on a local state highway lately?
Yeah.
Or the interstate? It's full of potholes. I mean, we just...
We're all feeling
services take funds, and
with some of those things you can sustain it. Like you can put off paving the road, we can put off buying textbooks and computers, but after a few years you start to really pinch, see the problems, and we're at that point. So the override for us is going to be critical.
And so the override is essentially the district, the people in the district, property taxes that we say we're going to support education with this amount on our property taxes.
That's correct. It allows you to exceed the state base rate funding. And so, the local taxpayers have been very supportive in the past, and we certainly, we need them now more than ever. There's other ways people can help too with the tax credit program, which is unique. It's allows you to take dollar for dollar off your state income tax. So you're basically diverting dollars you're already going to pay to the state general revenue to your local district or school.
So it doesn't cost you anything to support that program.
Right, you're just diverting money, and it's $400 for a couple who files jointly, or $250, I believe, for an individual. And those monies can be used for a variety of extracurricular activities, which, again, that's very important for us, the things that we can't provide with state funding.
Your band program, probably, this wonderful
athletics,
art program that you have, the fine arts, the wonderful plays that your students so professionally put on for the community. I mean, all of those things are helped by the tax credit program.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a great way to help the school without really spending any money. It's just diverting some of your state income tax dollars. And I'd be happy to explain that to anybody who would like some scenarios and help with understanding it.
Absolutely. We'll have to get you out to the Chamber and Rotary and Kiwanis and kind of get that word out there about those opportunities, really. Let's talk a little bit about shared services, and the communities, the schools have been working together. I know that you've already met Cottonwood Oak Creek School District Superintendent Barb Uran, and what are your plans on how can we collaborate and that sort of thing? I know the city shares a position in our Parks and Recreation Department with Cottonwood Oak Creek School District. You know, those kinds of things. What are your plans?
My plan is to further understand the existing partnerships and find ways to expand them. So we have a joint board meeting between the Cottonwood Oak Creek District and the Mingus High School District on the 21st. And so the two boards will be getting together just to talk about those kind of things, and then it's up to the administration really to continue to do things we're already doing. So we already have shared positions such as a special ed director, and we have some shared services with Clarkdale-Jerome District as well. So it's not just one district. We're looking for as many ways to be more efficient so that we're good stewards of the local tax dollars. Even though we're separate legal entities without unification, we can still operate as efficiently as possible to best serve the community.
Absolutely. Well, so we've talked about the 1% sales tax, the tax credit. So the collaboration, that's just kind of what we discuss with the feeder districts. I know sometimes people talk about the curriculum and how, the grade schools can prepare their students to go into high school without too much of a burp. And sometimes there seems to be a little bit of disconnect in that area.
Even in unified districts, that's a huge transition. The freshmen really struggle, and it's something, we have intense interventions in place for freshmen. So even in a unified district, when kids transition from 8th grade to 9th grade, they tend to struggle. There's a high failure rate of courses, and they sometimes have difficulty responding not just to the curricular changes, but the changes in responsibility. They're more individual responsibility placed on the student, and those are kind of things we have to overcome anyways. Curricular alignment is something we've been working on, and the more we can be on the same page, so to speak, and have kids academically prepared such that all the elementary districts feeding in have the same level of preparation.
Well, welcome to our community.
Well, thank you so much.
And we're just looking forward to interacting with Mingus Union High School and supporting our youth, and that's what we do. So we'll be talking again very soon, I'm sure.
Great, thank you.
And this ends this episode of Inside Cottonwood. We'll see you next time.